Oh hey, it's me, Justin, from the darkness. It's Justin Hawkins Rides Again, my new YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Can you hear a creak as I fidget? No? Good. Me neither. Today, I'm going to be talking about a band that I think a few of you are very fond of. But it should be more. I'll explain why. It's the Struts! Now, the Struts are a band that I'm going to find it quite difficult to be impartial about because I'm very, very fond of the singer, Luke Spiller. I think he's got a great name, great look, really healthy attitude. I think he's super dedicated and ambitious, and you won't see many people who are more determined to be a music star, and I think that he's motivated by all the right things. He wants to entertain folks, he wants to live the life, he wants to bring happiness and joy to his audience, and I really think that the people that understand the Struts and love it appreciate him for that, and they recognise that in him. It makes him a star. He is actually a star. So my question to you is this: why aren't they winning Grammys, Brits, taking over the world? Why aren't they huge? They seem to be, I don't know, they always seem to be perennially up and coming, and they never quite get there. Why do you think that is? I have a theory. Right, 6 years ago they had this song, which I think is still their big song. If you type into the internet Struts song, the first one that comes up is called Could Have Been Me.
I wanna taste love and pain, wanna feel pride and shame.
I'm just going to show you some of the lyrics. Don't want to live as an untold story, rather go out in a blaze of glory. I can't hear you, I don't fear you. I'll live now because the bad die last. Dodging bullets with your broken past. I can't hear you, I don't fear you now. And it goes, wrapped in your regret. What a waste of blood and sweat. Oh, oh, oh. I want to taste love and pain. I think the problem with this is the lyric, right? It sounds like, remember that there was a Bon Jovi song that was going on about "It's My Life" and all that. At a certain point in your career, it's okay to do that because you've had all your success and you've done all your ups and some of your downs. You've done a song where you're apologising to your wife. You've had a haircut that's a bit too short. I know the feeling. And then it's the 90s and you're Bon Jovi, and then something like "It's My Life," it reprises the tale of some of those characters from Living on a Prayer. But with this, it's like you can't come out the gates with a song like this that goes, I want to feel pride and shame, don't want to take my time and waste one line. I want to live better days, never look back and say, could have been me, could have been me. Oh, I suppose it's like a no regrets thing, or is it I will have no regrets? I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's any... For your first sort of big song to be something that has so little in the way of sort of vulnerability and fragility. I mean, I do think there's a bit of bravado in that, because I know that him as a person and as an artist is quite a humble person. But I think when he gets his singing jacket on, a lot of the things that inspire him to sing in the first place are the fact that he loves doing it, and so it's kind of like his persona and his sort of onstage character is saying, "Here I am, watch me, adore me. I'm going to be fabulous, and when I'm not fabulous, I'll be f***ing terrible, but I'll be something," And I think that's a admirable way to go about your career. But I don't think it should be creeping into the songs, when it's your first go round. I think, I mean, he's probably, I don't doubt for a second that he means every word of this, but I just think that to develop as an artist and not less so as a writer, I think you've got to let your audience into something that affects you uniquely. I feel like when you come straight out of the gate and you start dealing with super broad attitudinal themes in your songs, I mean, it's great. There's no reason why you shouldn't do that, other than the fact that I do think that you need to sort of tell the world who you are a little bit in the first instance, and where you came from and why you exist, really. I always wanted to keep everything that we did in the first record to be sort of very regionally specific. If I was talking about an illness, I would talk about the specific symptoms of the illness. I'd probably even name it. I'd name towns. I'd name people, and it becomes, I think there was concern within the Darkness camp that it was exclusive, and it was making things less a bit more difficult to relate to, because I wasn't dealing with broad themes. But actually, I think if you keep it real and about yourself and about your own life, then those problems that you have in, for example, Lowestoft or Beccles or any of the provincial towns that we all come from, I think those problems and those emotions and things can be transplanted into whatever town you're growing up in. And if you're positioning yourself as an outcast, which is what every great singer should do, you've got to be real about where you're coming from, because everybody comes from the same thing. Everyone has the same problems, and you want them to relate to you. You don't want them to listen to like broad, sweeping statements about how one should live their life, because we all know that already. We all know what we're supposed to do. We all know we're supposed to live in the present. We're supposed to wear our hearts on our sleeves. We're supposed to live with pride and shame, and we're supposed to not take our time and react to things immediately. We're not supposed to be wasting lines, although I do think that's a really good drug reference, a sneaky one. We all want to live better days. We never want to look back and say it could have been us, do we? No, but this is so broad. And the problem is, it's just, when you try and include everybody, you more or less get ignored by the majority of folk. And I think they have got a really strong and dedicated following. I know a lot of people who like the Darkness love the Struts. I'm one of them, actually. I love Luke. I think he's great. But I'd love to hear him tap into some of the vulnerability as a songwriter that we know is there, because he's a human being. He is a human being who's aspiring to be a superstar. But you can't be a superstar without being a human being first. Sometimes you're a human being, then a superstar, then you're a human being again. But I think he's jumped the gun in some of his songwriting, especially that one from 6 years ago. Let's have a look at one from more recent. What's a good sort of mid-period Struts one to do? About 3 years ago, there was a song that they did called Body Talks. Which I like that, because it reminds me of farts. And I'm really fond of farts. But this, unfortunately, is not about farts. It seems to be like a seductive saying stuff about an encounter where I think it ends up with the two of them melding in a sensual way, perhaps in a bed or in a hotel or something. Right? Am I right about that? Is that what you think? So, and it's talking about like a flirtation and all this sort of stuff. That's all right. There's a lot of songs like that. Prince is very good at songs like that. And I gather that they had an opportunity to sort of sing that song at the Victoria's parade. Was it Victoria's underwear parade? I don't know what it is. The Victoria's Secrets, where they had some secret underwear parade. And did they play it live there? And they played it live there. That must have been a good laugh. And millions of people have seen the video. Anyway, I think the Struts is one of those bands where the thing that you love about them, or some people love about them, is the exact thing that other people really hate about them. And it's the same. They're very Darknessy in that respect. It's the Marmite band. He's got a Marmite voice. He's got a Marmite look. The songs are Marmite. But I think that the balance is tipped in the wrong direction for them. There's a lot of people who are just discarding them. It's great that they divide and they polarize, but more ears need to get on it. They have brilliant opportunities. They've got great management. Playing at the Victoria's underwear parade, must have been a great experience. And they do get positioned with top songwriters, and they're always in the right place at the right time. They were on tour with the Foo Fighters one time when we were in the States, and some of our lot went over to see that show. But I think, if your song is this, it's taking the generic chord sequence to a new level. genericness. I don't know whether that's like and you really are relying on the star quality to be able to make that into a song that stands out, really. And I don't know if you hear that star quality on the recordings that they've done so far. And they've worked with some brilliant songwriters. I think they've worked with Desmond Child. I know they've worked with Greg Alexander, who's a dear friend of mine. He's the one from the New Radicals. He wrote all those brilliant Ronan Keating songs, and Sophie Ellis-Bextor songs. He's just great, and also a Centanos song, Santana. He's not Greek. He's from somewhere else. So, you know, they've worked with the best people, and I still don't think they're getting the results that they deserve. Why is that? They look good. They sound good. What's happening? Then they did that song. What's it called again? The low-key one. Not the Norse god of mischief from the Marvel movies. Although that would be a good song, wouldn't it? Low-key in love. Like a spin-off movie, because there aren't enough of those in the Marvel universe. I think it's time somebody did a romantic comedy featuring Loki, where the joke's on him, for a change. They recently did a duet with Paris Jackson, who is the daughter of the Michael Jackson. And he wore a pink suit in the video, and I thought he looked really good. And that was just before I spoke to him, and the interview's down there. Not an interview, it's a chat. He's lovely, he's charming, vulnerable, really disarmingly honest, and just I think he's a great person, and I really hope he does well. But this song, this is my first chord sequence, part 2. It's C to its relative minor, A minor. So simple. This girl. But they do it like this. How do I do it? Yeah, so the chords, according to this app that I tend to refer to, might not be accurate, but it seems to be C, A minor. That's the relative minor of C, thus the most obvious chord you can go to without it transitioning in a jarring way. You hear it a lot in 60s music, and I think that the general arrangement of that song is supposed to sound like that period of the Rolling Stones' career towards the late 70s, I suppose. Some Girls and all that stuff. It's, you know, and he's wearing a pink suit in the video and looking, it's a great suit, he looks awesome in it, but it's very Mick Jagger, very derivative of that, and you know, that's cool, it's one of his influences, he's wearing it on his sleeve. It's a duet, but when you listen to Mick Jagger sing from the beginning until even his more recent recordings, it's super edgy because he's sort of singing slightly out of tune, he's either sharp or flat, it's not quite there. And it's what makes it really exciting. That's actually what rock and roll sounds like. You listen to Led Zeppelin, he's always sharp, he's often flat when he's not sharp, he's never on it, and you never want him to be on it. It's the same with David Coverdale, it's the same with Steven Tyler, it's the same with all these guys, that when you use auto-tune and have it so it's perfectly on the money. I mean, first of all, auto-tune and Melodyne and these programs that they use in studios to rectify tuning issues. If you don't need it, then it changes the timbre of the singing voice unnecessarily, and it just has this sort of upper midi whiny sound to it, which is a shame because he can sing. He sings day in, day out. They work really hard. He's got a road-proven voice. You don't need to be putting that stuff on it and overproducing stuff, especially if you're trying to make something that sounds like the Rolling Stones. Why would you do that? It's the anti-Stones. It's sort of taking something that's inherently rock and roll and then just taking all the rock and roll away from it, and then you're just left with this. It's such a shame. So I think they have to decide, do they want to be a radio pop band that's collaborating with, you know, people who have existing fan bases and famous dads and all that sort of stuff? Or do you want to be a rock and roll band that's out there touring and working hard and actually putting the sweat into the work, which is the one thing I've always admired about the Struts is their work ethic. They're always out there. They're always doing stuff. They do more shows than we do, and there aren't many bands that I can say that about. They're always on the road with somebody. They're doing long physical shows. His voice stands up to that sort of treatment, so why wouldn't you just record it and let it be natural, let it be heard, you know? It's going to divide people. It's not always going to be in tune, but then the best singers never are. Mariah Carey's always sharp. That one from, what's her name? Florence and the Machine. Always flat. Or sharp. Never, well, she's actually a long way off a lot of the time. But in a good way, in a good way. These observations that I make about, singing not being in tune, that's not why I don't bother tuning the guitars properly. That's because I can't do that. And other people who are paid technicians and professionals do that. Paid technicians and professionals are brilliant at tuning. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Don't panic. I'll just leave it. I'll hold it. Paid technicians and engineers, they are able to make voices sound like they're in tune, but the process of that comes at a cost. It takes away any character. It certainly takes away anything that's rock and roll about it. I actually believe in the Struts, and I believe in Luke especially. I think they're a really hard-working, robust and built-to-last band with a star at the front of it. They haven't got the right songs yet. I think they've misjudged lyrically. I think they've misjudged they've misleveraged their way into success, and I think that's just a timing issue. I think if you juggle the Struts releases a little bit and put some of the more recent stuff first, like this is more tender, duetty moment would be much more helpful to their career path if they'd written it 5 years ago. And I think those ones about, living life to the max and being a stage hero and all those ones where he's sort of referring to his ambition, if you bring those to now and make those autobiographical things something that you might not be able to relate to it if you don't have those ambitions yourself, but at least it will give you an idea of his journey in a more realistic way than before he's achieved anything. I just think they've got the timing wrong on the songs, and they need more songs and they need more perseverance. I think they'll have a much bigger audience than they've got right now. I think they're organically growing it just by being really great live and him being an excellent, entertaining frontman who can sing. It's just not evident in the recordings, and that's what they're going to need to address to cross over. They have to make a decision. Are they going to be a pop band or a rock band? I think they'll become the rock band they're supposed to be. They'll stop fucking about with all this with all this pop stuff and pop producers. Stop auto-tuning voices. Record the band who can play. I think that even Adam Slack, he can actually play, and I hear improvement in him every time I hear him. I see any footage of him playing. I think he's getting better and better. So they're actually developing as a live band, and I think they're stagnating in the studio. So I think I need to throw away all of their preconceptions about how to record a record, get my brother to produce them, and I'll co-write it, and then I'll have a massive hit. Justin Hawkins rides again on the Struts. I bid you adieu. And put the bass down. And cut! Don't forget, like and subscribe for more Justin Hawkins Rides Again analyses and career advice to singers that I'm fond of. Merci bien, and adieu.